Hello guys, welcome to the course, and what we're going to be building is a quiz stroke online examination platform. It's basically a platform that allows people to log on and then they can choose a subject or a topic to take a quiz or an exam on, and then answer the questions and submit, and immediately they see their results. Okay, so I'll give you a quick tour of what this is. All right, so let's sign up first. Sign up as, let's say, you at u.com. Password test. Right, same test. And first name, let's say you, last name you again, and click sign up. Right, so let's choose a subject to take a quiz on English. Okay, so proceed. What's the past tense of came? What's the past tense of go, went? What's the plural of oxen? Is this, we'll leave this blank. Which one is this? Let's just choose that. Okay, basically you can upload images as well. So this question is basically like saying what is the name of this image, or what is this thing showing here. Okay, so it's a very dynamic quiz platform basically. Now that's the result of the quiz. Okay, you can choose another subject like current affairs. Proceed. What's the capital of Germany? It's Berlin. Who's in this photo? That's Ronald Reagan. And what's the capital city of Ireland? It's Dublin. Well, in what city is the famous structure located? That's the Eiffel Tower, and it's in Paris. Who's in the picture below? That's Einstein. Okay, and we can submit the quiz. Right, so you see, and we can log out. We can also sign in as an admin. That I've registered that as an admin. So okay, put in the password. And now, because we are logged in as admin, you see we have this option to add questions or delete questions. So if you click on add question, and let's say choose a subject, general knowledge, proceed. Let's choose what's the capital of Kenya. That's Nairobi. Yeah, submit. Go to the next one, choose general knowledge again, proceed. Okay, whose image is that in the photo below? Let's put up Ronald Reagan's photo. So I've got Ronald Reagan's photo here, that one, and okay, and submit. Okay, let's add one more. Proceed. Okay, what's the let's say, whose image is that in the photo below? I've got Albert Einstein's photo as well, so I'll choose him and submit. Now we can click on the home page to take the quiz now. So let's select English. We've done English before, right? Let's select general knowledge and proceed. And you can see these are the questions. So this is what we're going to be building. As you can see as well, we can log out. That's me signed in here. That's my username. So we're going to build all of this, and then obviously, like I said, because we are admin as well, we are able to see this. So we actually have restrictions, on what features can be accessed by, users depending on their level of on the user role basically. So we can log out now and dive into the course, and we go on from there. All right, so to begin the project, the first thing I've had to do, just to save time, is I've had to create a project folder. We're going to be using the WAMP XAMPP localhost server, basically. So I've created a project folder, quiz project, that's it. and it's within the htdocs folder of the XAMPP main folder. So you can look up XAMPP or download XAMPP if you don't already have that installed, because you need that to run your PHP, because PHP runs on the server. So it's different from HTML, so you need a server to run the project. So you can download XAMPP, Google that and download. Now, having installed XAMPP, we can now begin to create our project folders. So first of all, we will need an assets folder, assets, and we shall also need a handlers folder, and we will need as well includes folder. These are the basic folders we shall be needing for the project, and then we can now begin to create files. The first file we shall be creating is the login.php file, basically to work on the login page. And to do this, we can go to Bootstrap. If you Google getbootstrap.com, that's the address, and you can copy there's a starter template, that one. Yeah, so you can quickly copy this and paste on the file, and we shall carry on from there in the next. Okay, so I've pasted the form, basically the starter template from Bootstrap, and that's it here. And then the next thing we're going to do is to go also to Bootstrap as well again, so we can get the form template we need to start the login page. So this is the one I'm gonna go with. Basically, if you just copy that, and we come back to this and paste. Right, so now the next thing we're gonna do is to begin to change the form template to suit our need. So we need an email, of course, we need a password, and we will also need a confirmed password as well for sign up purposes. So I'm going to duplicate that, and then what else do we need? We need a column, we need a, well, basically we need name and surname as well. So I could duplicate this again and paste for name, and another one for surname, and then of course there's a submit button as well, and I don't think we need this one, that's not needed, so I'm going to take this out. And also form, so action, when you have a form, the form submits to a page or a script that has to process the form. So that's what we fill in there for the action. So we're going to say to submit the file to login handler. Let's say login underscore handler dot php. Now, of course, we're going to use method, and we should be using the post method in this case. We can give it a name as well. So I'm basically going to clean this up, and then we'll continue in the next slide as well. So I'll see you guys in the next page, in the next slide rather. Okay. So welcome back, guys. Now, I've basically made a few changes to the form to suit what we need. So if you, as you can see, I've had to change the action to handlers slash login handler.php because I do want to include that script within the handlers folder. And of course, as you can see, I've given a name, ID, and class as well. Classes there already, to the email input, and also password, confirm password, first name, and last name as well. Now, if we scroll down, we'll see there's also a name for the login button, and we're going to have to build this in such a way that we can toggle the login and sign up button. So it's basically a best practice to write as little code as possible, um, for your projects. So there's a concept called the dry concept: do not repeat yourself. So write very little code to achieve as much functionalities as possible. So we would also need, I'm going to copy this as well and paste here, because I want to have some sort of a message that toggles when you toggle the button as well, the login and sign up button as well. So that will be, I will give, this is not going to be a button anyway, so I'm going to use, we could use a paragraph tag here, right? And there we go. And we can say, we've got a class there, we can give this an ID. So let's say ID should be something like toggle message. And then of course, I'm going to give this a href tag. So slash that, and of course href. Now that's not going to go all direct to any page, so I'll just put a hashtag in there and an ID as well for the link. Okay, so now I've had to complete the um, div for this. As you can see, I'll scroll to the end to show you what I have done here. So that's the href tag, and you've got some little bit of styling there, and this is the message there. So it's gonna say, if you don't have an account, click here to sign up. So that's what's going to be toggled. And in order to have these achieve this toggling functionality, I will add an on-click event listener here, and let's say toggle sign up. I always prefer to use the camel casing here. And then one other thing I've done as well, if you look in here, you can see that I have changed the well, the version or the build of the jQuery that is imported, through the Bootstrap template. This is basically the complete one. You also have the minified one, but I always prefer using this, especially if I have to do a project where I would have to run Ajax calls, because if you use the minified version, that's the one where you have .min.js. If you use that one, you would not be able to run Ajax, for some reason. So it's always good to have that in mind if you're going to run Ajax requests. We're not really going to do that in this project, but if you were to do that, you would need to make sure that you're not using the minified version. So, and if you go up here as well, I have done this because we're going to write a JavaScript or jQuery file, and it's going to be linked to this as well, so that we can have, or we can achieve our functionalities. We don't want to write the JavaScript or the jQuery on this login page. We want to write it in a separate file and pull that in here. So I will start by creating a folder here, and I will call this source src, and another folder again that I will call JS in here. Right, so we've created this scripts.js file, which is going to be pulled in here. And now I think we can go to the browser and run the script to see what our page currently looks like before we proceed. So if you go there, and that's it. So this is the link or the path to run the script if you're running on localhost. Now this is what it looks like at the moment, so we're going to need a little bit of styling to make it look nice, because at the moment it doesn't really look so nice. So what we can do, we can wrap the form in a div, a container div. So let's put in a div there, and scroll to the end just after form tag and close the div tag there. Right, so if we go back up here, we can then, let's give a little bit of space in there. So because we have Bootstrap already being pulled in, we can use Bootstrap styling now. So let's give this a container class. So class, let's say container. Let's also say like a little bit more styling style. Let's give the margin at the top, and let's say 20 pixels at the top. Let's see what this looks like. So save and go back, reload our page, and that looks a little bit better. Right, so now as you can see, we've got the link here, but if you click, nothing happens. So the next thing we will have to do is to work on the toggle sign up functionality, and we're going to do that within the JavaScript here, such that if we click the button, it changes the button, it transforms the button so that it becomes a button for sign up, and if we click again, it transforms it back to a button for login. So that's the next thing we're going to have to do in here, and when we come back, we'll carry on with that. Okay. All right, so now what we are going to do next is, since we now have the script page for the JavaScript, we can now go in here and begin to write our toggle sign up function. So we'll say function toggle sign up, right, and that. Now what do we want to do? We'll say if. Now this is how you write it in jQuery. You use the $sign, and that's because we want to call a particular div we use the hashtag login button, and if the value of the login button, if it's equal to 0, we want to do something. Now if you go back here, you can see that on the login or sign up button, I've assigned a value of 0 to it. Now it's the value that we will be using as a condition for triggering the change in value. You'll understand what we're doing as we go on. So if this value is 0, we want to be able to log in. Now if it's 1, we want to be able to sign up. Okay, so at the moment it's 0, so we're going to log in, but if we change this to 1, then we should be able to sign up. But we're not going to do that manually, we're going to have to do this dynamically. Okay, so if I go back in here, we can see if that value is 0, we want to do a couple of things. And the first thing we want to do is we'll say dollar and the hashtag as well. We call the first name div, and we want to show the first name div. Right, so if we go back here, we can see that I've assigned last name ID, first name ID. So these divs have IDs because they're going to be toggled, they're going to hide and be shown as well. All right, guys, so we're going to carry on from where we stopped. And if you look here, just to show you again, like I said, we have the name div and it's set to display none, and I've given it an ID and also ID as well for first name. And this is because we need to toggle these IDs or these divs so that they can be hidden if we are not signing up, and then if we are just logging in, obviously they don't need to show, but if we are signing up, they need to show. So that's the essence. And then so carrying on from here, the next thing is we're going to call say dollar slash hashtag, and then the next one is last name div, and we want that to show. Okay, and then the next one is the confirm password div. Oh, sorry, and that confirm password div. Right, we want this to show as well. And what's the next thing we need? We then need to change the value of the login button from 0 to 1. That's the next thing we need to do, and it has an ID of login button. Okay, so how do we do that? We just say that well, let's do the value first before the value of the HTML. So that val, we change that to 1. This is how you change the value to 1. And then also we've got the other one, which is the what's displayed within the button. So let's just copy that because we'll get to see. Okay. So dot html, we want to change the HTML to sign up. Okay, now that's there, right? And then the next one is the paragraph tag for the message that is displayed. Okay, we're going to change that as well. That's the toggle message. Okay guys, so I've basically completed this. So this is what it is. That's the message to display within the paragraph tag to say click here to revert to login if you are already registered, and else we're going to do all of these. We're going to hide that, hide this, and revert the value to 0 as well. And then the login button reverts the HTML to login from sign up. And the message as well, we change that to, if you don't already have an account, click here to sign up. Now, as you may notice, if you look at this here, you can see I've added a backslash before the apostrophe, and the reason is it's basically to escape that apostrophe, otherwise it wouldn't work. Okay, so now that we've done this, we save, and let's go back and reload our page and see what changes there are so far. Okay, so if we reload and click that, you see, right? So that toggles, and then if you click that again, it goes back. That's back. All right, looks good. So now that we've got the functionality, the toggle functionality working, we're gonna have to look at setting up the database so we can begin to work on the logging in function and store values of whoever is signing in, their name, email, password, and whatever. Store them in the database. So we're going to have to set up the database connection, and then also we'll begin to handle the logging in. So what we would do is, within this folder, the includes folder, we can create a new file and call this connection.php. Now that's the file that we're going to use to connect to our database. So it's basically setting up our database with that. Now what we will do here, it's a PHP file, of course. So start PHP, closing tags, right? And then connection. Let's set this up. Okay, so let's continue from where we stopped. So connection, we say mysqli underscore connect, and then these are the parameters to set up the database, and it's local host here, and the next is the username, which will say root, and then the password as well. And we're not going to use any password in this case, we'll leave that blank, and then the name of our database. So we call the project quiz project, so let's just call this quiz project. So we've named our database quiz project, and then we'll have to go to the database as well and set up that project on there. So then we say if our connection is false. So basically, if there is no connection, then we'll do something. What do we want to do? We can say die, basically. Just say die, connection failed, and just any message you'd want to display. So that my SQLI underscore connect error can just leave it at this, right? And that goes in there. So we've got that set up, save, and then we come to the back to the database, and then we create a new database name, which we've said is quiz project, and this has to match exactly with the name here, otherwise it's not going to work. So quiz project, create. Right, now we need to have a couple of tables within this database. One of the tables we should have is the users table, where we store the names of the users, passwords, email, and all there is. And we also need a table for questions, and we also need another one for the quiz record or the exam results as well. So we're going to set up all of this and proceed. Okay, so now that we have set up the database, the next thing is to create our tables, and we can either do this manually by coming here and we can type in, say, users, or and begin to create the table manually. But for best practices, I would prefer we did this using our table schema. So I'm going to paste this. I paste this here. This is I've written this out, but I'll explain what I did here. Now this is the schema. It says create table users. That's the table we're going to create, and these are the columns within the table. We have an ID, it's an integer, it's not null, and it's auto increment. First name varchar 255, the length of the string, and last name, email, password, and the rest of it. So I've also put in a profile pic as well, so we're going to see that later on. And then last login time, just in case you want to log in or to keep records of what times each user has logged in. You can use that. Registration time as well, user role. Now user role is very, very important, because like I said in the first slide, you know not everyone should be able to add or upload questions. You have to be an admin to do that. Otherwise, everyone could just come in and, flood your database with, loads of questions, and that's not good. So, the way it is we're going to use like integers to assign values to user roles. So say if it's 1, that should be an admin. If it's 2, then that's a basic user. So we're going to see more of that as we go on. So that's the schema, and if we click go, right, so come back here, and one table, users, and as you can see, the users table has been created with the schema. Now the next one we will create as well, we're going to create the other tables. I'll basically copy from here where I've done this before, so the questions, and we'll come back and get that. Okay, so I've copied this from where I've done this before. Obviously it's just to save the time. So that's questions. You have ID, question number, you have the question itself. It's going to be a text, and then the answer as well. We're going to use varchar with a string length of 255. Then question image as well. Subject, what subject people want to answer questions on, or so click and go, and that creates that as well. Then the next one we will have to create is the quiz record. So if I copy that and I come here again, oh no, rather SQL, and then I paste that here. So for the quiz record, we do have the ID, of course. We have username to identify who has what score, and we have the score as well. That's an integer. We have time of submission, just so, because the essence is the essence of the results is to know who has scored the highest, and then also to check what time each person took the quiz as well. So we create that. So now we have our tables all set up. Questions, you can see that. Quiz record, you see that, and user, of course. So I think we're good to go. We can now proceed to work more on the login page. So obviously we should be looking at the login handler now. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. So now the next thing we will be looking at is the handler for the login. So if we fill in our values and we click on submit, we want to do something. Now, what do we want to do? We come here and we can create a file here. We'll call this log in underscore handler. That's PHP. So that's the file. And now this is done and we can begin writing the code. The first thing we would need to do, we need to import our database connection. Right, so now we're going to start working on the login handler. And the first thing, of course, we need is to link up our database connection. So first thing here, PHP tag first, and all right, now that sets up, this basically sets up our connection to the database. Okay, and so we'll say if is set underscore post, and if it's set post log in button. So if the login button is clicked, which is a type of submit that obviously posts the data to this page, if that is clicked, we want to do something. And the first thing we would want to do is to receive the data from the login page, and we will filter this data, clean them up before we store them in the database. Okay, so we'll have let's assign the first name variable. Let's say first name, that's post first name, and then we have the next one is last name as well. So underscore post last name. No, not that. There, right. Then we also need the email as well, and that will be dollar underscore post email. What else do we need? We need password and confirm password as well. So password $_post password and confirm password. Confirm password. Okay, so as you can see, I've basically completed this up to this point. So what I've done here is these are the variables, basically the first name that is received from this form, which is, if you go up here, you've got first name, that's it there, first name. When it's received here, we assign that to this variable first name. Same with last name, email, password, and confirm password as well. So what we want to achieve here is this: when we receive all of these values, we want a situation where we check our database to see if the email or if the user exists, and we're going to query based on the email that we have received. Now, if the user exists already, then we're not going to store this. But if the user does not exist, then obviously we can't go ahead and store. And also, we have to ensure that the password matches with the confirmed password. If they do not match, then we have to throw an error and tell the user to look at the password and confirm, again, make the changes where there needs to be a change. And after we've done that as well, or rather before we do that, we need to do all of these here. Now, this is basically to avoid things like SQL injections, you know. So we'll strip tags from the values, replace every space within each of these values, replace them, take out the spaces basically, and then we want to store them in lower cases. Okay, and so that's basically the same thing all through. Now, once we've done that, we can then go ahead to say, if this is a sign up, we want to do a set of things, but if it's not a sign up, if it's login, else we'll do another set of things. So let's say if $_post, if that is login button, and if that's equal to 1, we want to do something, else do another thing. Okay, so we've said if post login button, if the value is 1, which means we are trying to sign up, then we'll do something. If it's not 1, that's else, we do something else, which is login. Now we can proceed from here. So once we've ascertained that it's a sign up process, we can then say if. This is where we'll begin to do our validations, validating the data we've received. If the string length, strlen, yeah, if the string length of first name, let's copy that and put that in here. If that, we need a $sign there. So if that is, say, less than 2, because we do not expect a real name to be just a letter. I mean, the minimum we expect is 2 letters to make up a word or a name, so if it's less than 2, so let's say less than 2 here, or right, or the string strlen, if it's yeah, for the last name as well. Let's do that comparison. So we'll copy that, put in the $sign and that as well. So if that is also less than 2, then we need to throw an error to say message, which is an error message we're trying to throw up here, is equal to your name cannot be one letter long. Okay, now obviously if that's our error message, it means we have to initialize that somewhere up here and set that to an empty string. Okay, and then so if that's the case, we throw that error message and we redirect the person away from here with the header. Okay, all right, so this is what we've done here basically. So if the string length of the name of last name, first name, if it's less than 2, then we throw an error to say your name cannot be one letter long and redirect them to the login page. That's basically taking them back. Now this is how you do it. You use the header to do that, and as you can see, I've added a get request as well. So in order to transfer these error message variable from this basically from this page, function page here, to the page, the login page, so that it can be received from the login page and then displayed as well. So aside that, then we can also say if the password does not equal the confirmed password, then we also throw an error. So if if confirmed password, if that is not equal to password, okay, we throw an error. So we say message, we append to that and say your passwords do not match. Close that, and also I'm going to copy this, Ctrl+C, and paste that here. So we also redirect them back again. Now the next one we would want to check is if the password is not up to 5 characters, because we don't want people using like very weak passwords. So we can say if password is, let's say, between 5 and 30, so if it's greater than 30, or right, not just password, is the string strlen. Okay, set that here. So or that for of it's less than 5 as well, strlen, if that's okay. So we've also said if the length of the password, if it's greater than 30 or it's less than 5, then we throw an error as well to say password must be between 5 and 30 characters long, and then we redirect them back to the login page as well. Now if we have completed these validations and it passes, the next thing we will do is to run a query to see if the email does exist. So like I said, if it does exist, then they can't proceed and they have to choose another email. But if it doesn't, then they're happy to proceed as well. So let's run a query to check the database. So we can say query, and I would usually like to write my queries in this format. You can write them in a straight line, but I prefer it in a format like this. So you can say select email, and those are the backticks, email, and yep, a dot. Go on to the next line, remove that. So we select email from users. Okay, and that's where email is equal to dollar in quotes anyway. We need them in quotes. Dollar email, right? And then we can say result is equal to my SQLi underscore query, the connection we've set up, and query. Okay, and then this is to check for results, obviously. Right, so we continue, and now what this is if this query was not successful in running, then we throw an error. Yeah, basically that's what this says here. So beyond that, we also want to check if it was successful, and we can say if my SQLi underscore num rows for result, if it is greater than 0, so if we have at least, well, if we have at least one row of result from that query, which means that user already exists, so we can basically throw an error. So I would want to copy from here and paste in there and do a few changes. So, well, the error we want to throw this time around is to say this email is already in use. So we'll say this email is already in use. Okay, and then we redirect them to the login page again. Then we would also want to do something else if there was no result, which means the email is available to be used in this case. So we can say else if. Now what we want to do is we're going to compare, or basically try to see what the composition of the password that was chosen is. So we want certain characters only. We don't want just anything. We want certain characters. So we're going to do that check in this place. So if we say preg match this is basically like some form of regular expression I'm going to have to do here. And what I want to match against is, right, I'll say, I'll begin with that. Okay, so this is basically what I'm trying to um, check. Basically, so this password has to contain either a capital letter or small letter, or the numbers 0 to 9, or the ampersand, or the dollar sign, or a plus. If it contains anything else, then it has failed this validation, and then it will throw an error. Okay, so once it crosses that stage, then we can now hash the password before we can use the password, before we can store the password basically. So we say password is equal to MD5. So I'm basically using the MD5 hash in this case. So now that hashes the password, and then we want to create a unique username for this user. So we can say username is equal to, so let's put this in lowercase, strtlower, lower. I think that's the right one. It is. Now first name, what I want to do is to concatenate first name and last name separated by an underscore. That's the format I want to use for the username. So first name dot, and then your quote underscore dot last name. Okay, now this is how I want my username to appear. But then just what if you have two users who have different emails and they have same first name and last name? It means if you used this as the username, then they would end up having the same username, which is not what we want. So we're going to have to do a search in the database again to see if there's anyone else who has this username. And if there is, we'll do something else to change that. So we would want to append like a number, at the end of the username to differentiate that person's username from the pre-existing one. Okay, so we're going to write a query. Okay, so this is it. Now that's the query. I've written this query to say select username from users where username is that username I've just created there. Now, obviously, if that username does exist, then would have to do something, which is append a number at the end of it. So while obviously we'll look through the rows that have been received from the query, if it's not 0, we continue looping through and appending I, which is, a number at the end of it. Okay, so that's basically what it is. So loop through the result. If you find the same username, append number 1 to the user. If you loop through again, find another one, the same username and number 1 already appended, append number 2 to it. Okay, so that's basically what this is going to do for us here. And after that, just in case you would want to also consider, assigning profile pictures, to the users. I will do that as well. Now, what I want to do is to create a random system for assigning basically random images to each new user. Okay, and then you can also build this in such a way that afterwards the users can decide to change the profile pictures to whatever they want, but in this login stage, in the sign up stage, it's going to be a random allocation of um, pictures or photos as profile pics. So I will create a random number first. So I could say rand for random number, and this should be a random number between let's say 1 and 3. Okay, fair enough. Right. And so if this random number that has been generated, if it's equal to 1, we want to assign a certain profile picture to it. So with profile picture, um, profile pic. Okay, right. So I've just completed this just now. So if the random pic or the random number is 1, then we assign this image to it. If it's 2, we assign that image. If it's 3, we assign that image as the profile picture, and then we can proceed from here. Now, after all of these has been successfully completed, we'll then run a query to now insert the values into the users table. So we can now say query, and in our regular format we can say insert into users. Okay, and remember the backticks, and then okay, and we'll say the values we want. Now, what are the values we want to insert? If you have a look in the database, and this is the users table, we need ID, first name, last name, email, password, username, profile pic, last login, registration time, and user role as well. So we'll come back in here. Now, because the ID, of course, is an auto increment ID, so we're gonna have to leave that as blank, okay, because that's automatically gonna be taken care of by the database. So we insert first name, comma, insert the next should be last name, so dollar last name, comma, and the next is dollar email. Okay, and the next is should be password here, password, and then we insert the next would be username. And after username we also have profile pic, right? And remember the quote as well. And after the profile pic, what else do we have? We have last login and registration. Okay, so basically that's it. Insert the username, also profile pic, and that we're gonna leave that as blank for now. Then the date of registration, and then the user role, we've set that to 2. So this is just by default is going to be a basic user. And if we want to change that to an admin role, we can change that from the database and change this value to 1 within the database. So that user becomes an admin, okay, and can access admin functionalities as well. So if we insert that, then the next thing we want to do is to set our session. This is what basically determines, your state, or the state of, the application. So we set the um, session email to email because at this stage the user has successfully logged in because the query was successful. So if we set the session, then we can now redirect the user to the home page. Now, if that was not successful, if the query was not successful, then we throw an error to say your sign up was not successful, and then we redirect them to the login page again. Okay, so now having done that, the next thing we would want to do is to do an else here, which of course there is, and to say if. Now this else condition is if the value of login button, which is, I'll show you up there, that one. So if that is 0, that is the else condition, okay, which means we're only trying to log in and we're not basically signing up. Okay, so if we're logging in, now we would have to write a different query, or well, more or less, and say, right, say select email, and what else do we want to select? Let's select first name as well. First name, and we also want to select username and also password. Okay, so we say select username, email, first name, username, password from users where email is email, which we've already defined up there. And if that query is successful, then obviously we do a check here to see if MySQL I num rows result if it's less than 1, which means um, this email does not exist within the database. We can throw an error to say the email is not registered and redirect them back to the login page. Now, if that's not the case, which means the email does exist within the database, then we do something else. So we basically say basically assign these values. So the first name will be the row, first name, email, row, email, and then the username, row, username as well. Okay. Now this is because if the username does exist, or the email or that user does exist, we're going to have just one row. So it's just um, a one-dimensional array that we receive. Okay. So now, and also if the password has been provided, if the hash MD5 hash of the password that was provided, if it's equal to the hashed password, which is the password we already have in our database. If you remember, we hashed that password before we saved it in the database during the sign up process. So if this matches, then we set the session email to the email, and then we can redirect them to the home page, which means they've successfully logged in. Okay, now if any of these happens not to be the case, which is basically in a case whereby if it is not set, if that's not set, then it means this page is being accessed well, in an unauthorized manner. So we would want to take them away from here and redirect them back to the login page. So we can say header and location, take them back to http slash no, not that, local host, or whatever your URL is that you want to take them away. Okay, so we redirect them back to this page. Okay, so now if this login process was successful, we then need to redirect the user to that page, and that's the next page we're going to have to create. Okay, so if we go in here, click create new file, we can call this let's call this quiz homepage .php. And what we want to do here is basically to well, create a template. So we can go in here to the login page, because we need some of these from elements, or some of these things here. Let's basically copy everything first, and then we can begin deleting what we do not need afterwards. So copy that and come here, let's paste everything. Now, what do we not need here? We do not need email, of course. We don't need that. Pretty much don't need almost everything here. So I'm gonna take as much as right. Okay, I will leave this right, and we don't need that as well. So okay, we need to call this let's change the name of the form. So we can call this rather than login form, we can call this let's say quiz form. Let's call this quiz form, and that as well, same quiz form. And the name here, what we do actually want here is a select drop down. So that changes to, we'll say select. So welcome back, guys. Now as we were saying before, we have to put in the select drop down. So for the moment, let's just put this as option for now, because that's going to be a dynamic value there. So it's going to be dynamically populated. So but for the moment, let's just put this here to fill in the space until we get to the point where we'll have to pull in an array to fill up the options. So we've got the select drop down here. Now the next thing we're going to do is to put in a nav bar, because I mean, as you can see, if you have a look, you see there's no nav bar, so we need to put the nav bar there. So we can go to Bootstrap, and already you've got this one, so you can choose any template that suits what you need, but we'll go with this, and then we can make adjustments to it. So of course you'd have to place the nav bar just after the body. element tag begins. So paste that there, and we can now begin the process of editing the navbar template. Okay, push that in. Yeah, so that goes in there. Now, what do we need? First of all, we need, a brand name. So we can call this, just say, the quiz app, or any name you want to call the app. And then let's see what else we need here. Obviously, we would need some form of navigation to the home page, so that could be that. And then would also need one to check the results. So let's say check results, and we'll need another one for okay, call this add questions. And would also need one more for delete, because obviously you'd want to add questions and also delete if you need to reset everything. All right, now, so call this delete questions. All right, so so what it is would need to also include the navbar on the login.php page. Okay, so we'll come to, that's the login page, and it needs the navbar as well. So I can just as well paste that here. Yeah, okay, it needs a bit of cleanup. Take that away, right? And okay, so let's save and come back here, reload the page. Good. So we've got our navbar here, and we can now proceed. Let's attempt to sign up actually. Let's say okay, let's say John at yahoo.com as the email, and then password, let's say okay, test, confirm password, test. First name, let's say John, last name James, and click sign up. Right, so there's an error and we need to fix that. It says call to undefined function, and that's within login handler.php line 72. So if we go there and go to line 72, it says let's read the message and see what it says it is. Again, it says call to undefined function. All right, I see what it is now. That should be, there should be an O there. So if you save that and let's reload again, hopefully it works this time. Yes, continue. Okay, now we are signed in, but there's a bit of an error somewhere. Let's see, header.php on line 55, undefined variable user logged in. Right, so we'll get this fixed. That's on within header.php. Okay, so click on header, and all right guys, so there's a few errors here, okay, and we're going to fix them. One of them is, if you look here, that's not the right path. It should not be quiz app, it should be quiz project, because that's what I named that. So obviously this is coming from my previous project I've done, because I've actually done this project. I'm only trying to do that again for the sake of the tutorials. So we're going to change that, and then there's also a variable here, undefined variable, so we're going to fix that just now. Right, so if we come back here, we will change. If you go to the login handler, right, so that should be pointing to the project folder, which is quiz project. So QUIZ project. So ensure you use the right pathway or the right URL. Okay, I'm gonna change that as well, and all the places where this is used, replacing them. And is there anywhere else? Yeah, so that's one more there. Okay, and there's another one, and let's see if there's any further down. All right, there's quite a few. That and this. Okay, save. And if we go back to the header, yeah, okay, so where was that login page? Let's see the login page first. Okay, if we scroll down, and there is a user logged in variable somewhere that's throwing an error. and that needs to change. Okay, quiz home page. Yeah, that's it. So that's the user that there throws an error. So but we're definitely going to need that variable, so let's work on that now. So what we want to do is we want a situation whereby if you come to the landing page, which is this quiz homepage.php, once you sign in and that takes you straight to that page, then um, it runs a script here that pulls in um, Okay, so this is the query we're looking to write here. So what this query is going to do basically is once the user is logged in, it runs this query to select basically the username and the user role, because the user role would determine, what um, restrictions might be applicable to the user. For instance, like we said before, not every user should be able to access the add questions or delete questions buttons. Okay, so it's going to pull out these data from the database, and then we'll get to use them along the line. So that's the query. Okay, if you just do that there, and this is quiz project, right? So save that, and we can now go to the home page here. And now that we have, you know gotten the user logged in, like the variable for it, because if you see what we did here, we ran a query using that email to find the username and the role from users, of course, where email is that email. So that is the user logged in. That's the basically the username of whoever is logged in. So we can copy that and come here to the quiz homepage, and back here we can paste the value there so that the value of the user logged in, it gets passed across to other pages. So we need to say PHP echo that, okay, and then close that off, so that sets the value there. Then the next thing we're going to do is we also need to write some query at the top of this place. We'll say if is set dollar underscore get message. Now that's the message that will be passed across from the other pages. You'll see more of that as we go on. So, but for the moment, just get that in here. So get message, right? Now, aside that as well, as you can see, these options here, like I said, it's going to be dynamic. Okay, so this is the query. So that's an array subject options. Now, this subject options, that's an array of subjects, like subjects or topics that the user can choose to take the quiz on, maybe maths, English, um, current affairs, just name it, and that's going to be in there within the options. So we're going to echo that. So PHP, we'll say echo that, and you close that off. Okay, now that's where we've initialized that array. So we run the query to say select distinct. Now we say distinct because you can have a series of subjects. So if you go on the, like, look in the database, go to questions, you can see the subject column here. You can have maths in one row, the next row could be English, the next one could be physics, and the next one could be English again, and then next could be another physics again. So it's a mixture of different subjects in there. So that's why in this query we've said select distinct subjects. So it's going to select, if it's English, it's going to select English only. If it's maths you want, it's going to select maths only, even though there is a mix of subjects in that column in the database. So it selects that and then runs, loops through the result, and it pushes the result into that array, which is what we initialized here. Okay, now we're going to say as well that obviously we want to know like how many questions have been uploaded on a particular subject. So we do a count with that, and that gives us the question number. So okay, so that's the form. Basically all of this here is the form, like what we saw when I showed you guys the quiz page at the onset. So it's basically a form that, it's looping through the form to list all of the questions, available. Okay, so in here as well, the value of this option is going to be, for each of the items in the array, is going to be that as well. So we're going to also say value equals, and then we call PHP, no, not that, PHP echo. So this is what it is. So what we've done here basically is, like I said, we're going to have to loop through all of the subjects, so to have them as options within the drop down select. So we're using a for loop. So for I, which is a variable, equals 0, I less than the count of what we have in the array, subject array, and I plus plus. So basically just a loop, that's what it is. And then I've also added, as you can see, that, so we can echo the message we may receive from other pages to this page. So I've added that there as well. Now the next thing we would be looking at is we would need to create a new file here, and we'll call this upload underscore subject dot php. Now what we're going to do here is basically, if someone, if you are an admin and you want to upload questions, so this is like the first page. When you click add questions, it takes you to this page, and then you can choose what subject you want to upload the questions on and proceed from there. So this is the page for that. Now I'm going to copy everything we have here and paste on here, and then we'll delete what we don't need and make further adjustments as well. So we need to include the header, header include slash header.php, and then as well, what else do we need? We need an array of subject options as well. So for now, I don't think we don't need that, so I'll take that away. And we don't also need this query here, we don't, so I'll remove that. Now but then we need these subject options within this place. Okay, so we're going to have to create an array here, array of possible subjects. So we say English, name that English as well. These are the things. Okay, so this is the array of subjects. You can complete them, and if you feel like, you can also add more subjects as well within your array. Now here I've also changed the form to make it suitable for what we need. So the action, it should be submitting to quiz.php. That's a new file we will be creating to handle, or well, rather to for as the next page basically. Then we're using a for each loop to loop through the subjects array, and then it's quite similar to the last one we did, but this is for each, it's not for loop, it's for each, right? And then I've also made a few changes here as well. I can see the name is submit upload subject. Okay, so having done this, the next thing we want to now do is to create this file, the quiz.php. So save this and come in here and create a new file, and we'll call this quiz.php, right? So now on this page, the first thing obviously we want to check is if, obviously, well, we'll need to start it's a PHP file, so let's do that first. Okay, close the tag, and then as you would expect, of course, we need to include the to have access to our database connection. So well, let's just include the header here that also has within it the connection to the database. just to verify that, to be sure. Yeah, we've got that in there. So if we come back to quiz.php, we can just include includes header.php. So we include that there, and then we can now say if is set $post subject, because we do expect the subjects to be passed across to this page, because if you look here now within the subject array, so we'll say if it's set post subject, subject becomes post subject. So that's basically, if you look here, you can see we have this select, and the name of the field, or basically the name is subject. So if that is submitted to this quiz .php, which is what this is saying, then that variable becomes that. Okay, so we're going to write a query here, and we say select all from questions where the subject is this subject that has been chosen for upload. Okay, so and then we check the number of rows we have in the result. So that determines how many questions have been uploaded on that particular subject. Okay, so we can then get question number, which is the next question to be uploaded. So if the number of rows is 0, for instance, it means the question number you are about to upload is number 1, because it becomes 0 plus 1, that's 1. Okay, so then the next thing would do here is to put in the form as well. So I'll just copy this and paste here, then I'll explain what this is. Now in here, basically, okay, I'll get this aligned first. Okay, now this is what the form is like. Just a quick scroll. Okay, here, so what we've done here is basically we've set up this form, and this is like basically going to loop, or more or less, well, not looping through this time around, but this is just basically going to help us upload the questions. Now subject is the subject we already have. Question number is the number of the question to be uploaded. So if it's question 1, question 2, or question 3, and then we've got user role as well, which is something that we need to create. We need to define this user role before we proceed, and we can do that within the header file. Now, like I said before, the user role helps us determine, the level of authentication of whoever is signed in. So we get to know if basically if it's an admin or a basic user. And as you can see here, we've already defined that within the header.php. Okay, so the user role, if it's 1 or 2, that determines, who is. So now, as we were saying, this is the form basically to upload the questions. So we've got these hidden fields that we need to pass across to the form handler, and then you've got an input text type to type in the questions. You've also got an input text type for the answers, and then text type of file type rather, to upload whatever pictures or photos you might need to include in the question. And then also there is the submit button as well. So this is pretty much what the question upload form looks like. And now this form submits to question handler.php. So if we save this, then we can create another file within handlers, and we can call this question handler.php. So question handler.php. Okay, right. So now, of course, we need to get that there, close the tag. We need to start our session start, and then we need to include our database connection as well. So we can say require, and now the pathway to get to connection.php from inside of handlers, we need to go back one step up there and then go to includes and then into connections. So it's dot dot to go back one step and includes and then slash connection dot php. Right, so we can then say if is set post user role, and I'll explain this just now. So what it is we want the only user role to be able to access this. Okay, so now this is what we are doing here. Basically, we want the user role to be greater, to be one actually. So because one is admin. So if a user whose user role number is greater than one tries to access this URL, they actually can't, because this is like a guard basically to ensure that only admin has access, you know, basically to this functionality. All right, so if anyone other than admin tries to access uploading questions, they get redirected to the home page. Okay, now if is set post submit question, which obviously comes from there, so that's that. If this submit button is clicked, then we want to do something. Now what do we want to do? We want to get the question number that is being uploaded. We want to get a subject, and then we'll do a MySQLi real escape string here. The reason is we want to escape any on basically it's for security purposes actually. So you want to prevent SQL injections, and also if you've got like say an apostrophe within the name of the subject as well, you need that, otherwise it's not going to insert into the database, or you get an error basically. So here as well, for the answer we do the same. We replace all spaces. Okay, so the reason is we want to be able to do a comparison. So when a user enters an answer, okay, it doesn't matter if the answer is in capital letters or small letters, or if there are spaces, somewhere unwanted spaces within the answer. Okay, it strips all of those and just makes it uniform so that we can compare that value with what we've what's entered with what we've got in the database as the right answer to the question. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing here, and then we hash the answer as well, because we want to save it securely in the database. We don't want, even if for any reason someone is able to gain access to the database, they wouldn't know what the answers are because they are hashed. That's why this is done here. Okay, and then Now, so down here as well, now we want to upload the file. So if you do have an image, if you also want to upload a picture or an image in the question, this is what we're doing here, upload that. Okay, this is just a simple upload form. Then once we've uploaded that, we now insert everything into the database. Okay, and then if the query is successful, we redirect to upload subject so that the next question can be uploaded. And then of course, if the query is not successful, we just throw an error. And then if also um, someone manages to come to this page and it's not as a result of posting the submit question, then we want to take them out of this page immediately. So that's why we've got the header here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at basically what happens when the questions have been uploaded. So we've got also the pages to do that, so we're going to handle that. So but then, okay, we've saved this already, right? So we will need to create another file here. And what do we call this one now? We could call this let's call this questions.php. So this is like if you want to take the quiz. Now you are the user, you want to take the quiz, this is the page you come to and you start the quiz. So let's create a file here and call that questions.php. Questions.php. Okay, right. Now for this one, we can, we also need a form as well for this. So we need to get a form for that. Okay. Login process was successful. We then need to redirect the user to that. So now on the questions.php, basically this is what we're going to do, and I'll explain it again. As usual, we need to include the header, .php. Now this is the questions page where you list the questions that have been pulled in from the database, and then list them on the page, and people can answer the questions. So of course, if it's set post subject, then subject becomes that. Now if you look here, you'll see that this is a previous page. You see one of the variables we're passing across in the post request is subject, the other one is question number, and then there's user role as well. So coming back to questions, we need to ensure that a subject has been chosen. Okay, if no subject is chosen, then they need to go back to the home page, because you must choose a subject to proceed. And then we run a query to check within the quiz records to see if this user has taken the quiz on that subject before, so that people cannot take the quiz more than once on each subject. So if they have taken the quiz before, which is if the number of rows that is returned from that search is, if it's more than um, zero, which means they've taken the quiz, we pass a message to say they cannot take the quiz more than once. Okay, and then redirect them back to the home page. So if you go back to the home page, you see we set up a variable message there. So if it said get message, so basically that was why we needed that message variable, so that we can return messages basically. So coming back here, then we'll run the query, and then obviously to extract all the questions in that subject. And this is basically the form where we loop through the questions, as you can see. So if you just include that, okay, so we loop through the questions, and then now this is where the image is uploaded, or where the image uploaded is shown like this within this paragraph and the div. So we get the image, okay, from there. So once we've got the image, we'll display the image there, and this is, it's got a little bit of styling there as well. Okay, now that obviously is the submit quiz button. So, and that's okay. So just to recap this again, what this is doing is it's running a query to get the question number, question image, and from the questions table, where the subject is the subject that has been chosen. And when it gets that, then it loops through the array here within the form and populates the form, depending on the number of um, entries within the um, array. Okay, so that's what this does here. And then we can now um, obviously this basically submits to quizhandler.php. So we need to now create the quiz handler. That's the other file we need to create within the handlers to process the form for us. So we'll call this quiz underscore handler dot php. Okay, now within the quiz handler, um, obviously the first thing as usual we need is PHP, and close that off. Now we start the session as usual, session underscore start. Okay, and then we need to require our database connection. Okay, and like the other one, we need to go a step back, /includes /connection dot php. Right, now we also need to initialize this message variable as well, so that if we do have any messages posting or it's being sent to this page, we can access it. Okay, then we say if is set, because we want to check if data has been posted. Right, so when we push them into the array, then the next thing we want to do is to select the answers from the questions in the database where the subject is the subject that has been chosen. Then we look through the answers as well and then push them into this correct answers array as well, because I mean, what we essentially want to do is to compare the correct answers and the answers that have been put in by the user and then see where there are differences. Okay, now the total score will now be the size of correct answers array. Okay, now that's basically, so if the correct answers are um, say like 10, it means the total score or the maximum score that a person can have in the quiz is 10. Okay, now then we now loop through again here. Basically what we're doing here is we're checking, each key value pair within the correct answers and trying to compare them with, the key value pair within the answers array, which is the answers that have been imputed by the user. And then we get the difference. The difference is the size of the new array. So basically, if there is a difference, then that difference within the two arrays gets pushed into this new 2. Okay, so that's what we're basically doing. So what this array holds is the differences between the correct answers and the answers that have been put in by the user. So it's basically a simple mathematical operation I've done here. So the user score will be the total score, which is that how many correct answers there are, minus the difference, which is the size of this new array here. Divide that by the total score times 100. That gives us the answer in percentages. Okay, now we initialize the date because we will need to save what time the quiz was taken. We need to save that in the database as well. Okay, so we check again within the quiz record to be sure that this user has not taken the quiz before. Again, okay, so if there's no record of such person within the database having taken the quiz on that subject, then we can proceed to store. Right, so we proceed to store in the database. Now if for any reason um, the query was unsuccessful, basically, then um, right, we take the person away, basically. So then, but if it is successful, like if it was successfully inserted into the database, we now want to redirect them to check result, which is where the next page we should be building to show the result of the quiz. Okay, so that's basically what it is here. And then having done this, I would want us to quickly do the logout page, okay, because we've done the login function, but we also need a logout page. So I'll quickly create that and call this logout.php. Okay, and here I'll just paste what we need here. So what we're saying is start a session and session destroy, and header redirect the user to login page. It's quite simple. So that's what we need to do. So with this, we now have a logout functionality. Okay, so aside this as well, we also want to look at creating a handler. Well, call that a handler, but yeah, a handler for deleting questions. So if you are an admin, you may want to delete some questions and not just upload, but delete questions as well. So we're going to do that. We're going to create a delete handler. Okay, so we'll first of all create a file. I'll call that delete subject, where you get to choose what subjects to delete. Okay, delete subject dot php. Right, and we will also be needing another one as well, and we could call that one delete handler. So I'll just quickly get that down here, so I'll add that as well. Delete underscore handler dot php. Okay, so now going back to delete subject of so now for the delete subject.php, what we want to do here is we want to give the user, or rather the admin, the ability to choose what subjects to delete. So you can choose to delete, one subject or more than one. Okay, so of course, first we include that, and then we check the user role as well. So the person has to be an admin to access this functionality. If the user role is greater than one, then we redirect them away. So this is quiz project, okay, or whatever you've named project to be. All right, so then of course we've got the message as well, message variable, and then this is basically initializing the array of subjects that we would need to populate the drop down select. Okay, so that's it. And then of course this is where we set our message, just in case there's any message. Okay, and that's the form as well. This submit to delete handler. This is where the delete process is handled. Okay, so we're looking through these subject options, which is what we've got here. We're looping through them with the for each. Okay, and then when we submit as well, when we submit, we go to delete handler. So if we save this, we can then proceed to the delete handler. Okay, so and PHP. So we can say session start as usual, session underscore start, right? And then we need to require the database connection as well. So we say require include slash connection dot php. Okay, and then we can say if is set underscore post. Okay, so now here we've got delete handler. So this is where delete subject submits to, and then the form, or basically it handles the form. Now as usual, we start require connection, then if is set post user role. So the user role has to be an admin role to access this functionality as well. Initialize our message as usual, and then if is set post submit delete, which is that one. If that button is pressed or you submit the form, then the subject is that. Now if you observe, what I've done here is I've set this select, drop down select to multiple. So, and you can see that here, that tells the drop down select that it's going to be multiple select, so it's not just a single select, so you can select more than one option at once. Okay, so that's why it is an array. So subject is post subject, which is an array. All right, so what we want to do is, this is sort of a dynamic query we're going to have to run here. So because you're selecting more than one subject, this is how you run the query. Okay, so you say delete from questions where subject in subjects. Subject is that it's now a string, because a list rather, because as you can see, I imploded that. It was an array before, I imploded that, so it becomes more or less like a list or a string in if I would say. Okay, and they are comma separated, so each value is separated by a comma. Okay, so and then um, basically we run the query, and then if there's a result, we redirect the admin to basically that page, that one there, so that they can maybe choose another subject again, or you can redirect them to wherever you want. And also, if it was not successfully deleted, we also redirect them, but we've got a message to tell them that the subjects were not successfully deleted. All right, so one more file we need to create is the file where we can see our results. So that's check result dot php. Right, so I'll paste that, and then we'll explain what we've done. So as usual, we'll include the header, and then now this is also a dynamic query we need to run here to select the results to display, because once you've been where's that again, quiz handler, yeah, so once a user has submitted their quiz, and the quiz has been processed here, you can see they get redirected to check results.php, and with the get request of the subject. So if that subject is sent, we now run a query to select username, score, time of submission, and subject from quiz records. Okay, now as you can see, that filter query here appends where subject is equal to subject to that. All right, so this is necessary so that if a particular subject is selected, you can filter the results to only produce results on a particular subject. Otherwise, it will give you the general results for every subject. Okay, that's why I've done this. Right, and then of course we now have to loop through the results array, and then you know um, dynamically populate a table. All right, so that's the question number, or the number, basically participant, the name of the person, score, subject, and time, and we loop through them in a table. And now we initialize a count here so that you can see what is a serial number for each user or the result. Okay, and you can see we populate the table data with the values there. All right, so that's basically what we're doing here. Okay, and now we also need right, so there are a couple of changes I would want us to add here. So if we copied this user logged in here, and we are on the header.php file, and we go down here to where we've got user logged in, paste that there. Oh, we need to echo that in there. So say PHP echo that and close it. So that should echo the username when the user is logged in on the it should echo that on the nav bar. Okay, and then I think we've got something else to look at on the login.php. So if we go to login.php, yeah, at the top here we need to basically okay, start session, and then um, so session underscore start. Okay, and we need to include our database connection. So require includes slash connection dot php. Okay, and then we can now say if is set underscore get message. If that is set, then we want to assign message variable to that get message. So just in case we receive that from any page. Okay, right. And let's see if there's any other thing else we might need to change. Let's see if we scroll down. Yeah, so we need to the place where we would have to display okay the message, so we can copy that from maybe one of these other ones. Not the quiz on page. Yeah. Okay, so basically that's it there. What we needed to copy and paste in there. So if you set message, we echo the message, right? So we can save that now and change that. That's quiz project. Let's see if there are other places where oh there are. We need to change that as well, and change that. Let's see if there's other places. Doesn't seem like there are, so we can save. Double check again. Okay, looks right. That looks right. Looks right. And that as well. Let's see. All right, pretty much looks okay. And this looks good as well. Quiz.php. All right, we need to change that. Change that. Okay, every other thing looks okay. Save. Question handler. See if anything's not right. Okay, that looks right to me. And this as well. Okay, looks that one change that as well, save, and that as well, change, save, right, quiz handler, C. Okay, this one looks okay to me. So that's pretty much it. So we can now begin to test further. Okay, so now Ctrl V. We've got an error. Login.php line 2. Call to undefined function station. Oh goodness. Right. Login.php line 2. So that should be session start. Session Control S. Okay, let's see if we reload the. All right, guys. So now before we actually start testing and seeing the results of what we've been building so far, I need to make a few more changes now. That there needs to be quiz project. So I've actually changed a few other ones here. So make sure the URL href URL part is all correct. Okay, so we can now go to test. So I'll reload the page and let's sign in as I think let's create a new account and sign in. So email james at yahoo.com, password test, oh no, test, confirm, test, first name, let's say James, last name, let's say let's just say boy, whatever. Okay, so click sign up, and now that takes us to the home page and test your knowledge. Obviously, as you can see, no question has been uploaded, so we can't select anything even if we click. And if we want to log out, that's there. You can see you're signed in as that, and you can see that's the username. You can see the concatenation we made, and that's what's displayed there. So let's add a question. Let's say English. Okay, we can choose. You can see there's several options to choose from. So let's English, right? Proceed. Test your knowledge. Choose a subject. Okay, right. So proceed. We've got an error there we need to fix. Right. So let's work on that. We were on the, what page was that again? Upload subject, and okay, and that's meant to submit to where? quiz.php. What have we got on quiz.php? Let's see. Okay, let's see what the problem is here. Now, user role. All right, that's the problem. I think we're not passing in the user role. I don't think we're passing in across the user role. Let me see. Right, so quickly, the reason why we couldn't continue to upload the questions, let me log in again. We signed up as james at yahoo.com, and the password test, and log in. Now you can see that if we said add questions and we choose a subject and click proceed, we get pushed back to the home page. Now the reason for that is, if you look in what we've done here, the upload, where's that? The upload subject.php submits to quiz.php, that one. Now if you go to quiz.php, we've set up a guard to restrict access to this page, so you have to be an admin before you can access this page. So, and the user role has to be greater than 1. Okay, now currently if you look in the database, we've signed up and our user role is 2, which means we're not admin. So what we can do just now is quickly change that to 1, so that assigns us an admin role. Okay, so with that we should be able to proceed. Okay, so I'll refresh that and click add questions, English, proceed. You see, so let's say, okay, what's the plural of ox? Capital is answer is oxen, right? And submit takes us to the next, right? We proceed, and this is question 2 to upload. So what is the plural of is, right? Okay, is the answer. Submit goes to the other one. Now let's upload the question on what topic now? Let's say current affairs. Okay, proceed, and let's say whose image is that in the photo. Okay, right, let's put up Albert Einstein's. Click, select, and submit. If we now go to home, let's say like we want to take the quiz and choose English, proceed, right, we need to fix that again. It's basically something that has to do with it has to be do with the guard also. Let's see what it is and fix it. So we were within, let's see what page was that to take the quiz. That should be questions, yeah. So questions, let's see what could that be, what could be the error. Okay, so this is the error we had. The action was going to the wrong handler. So from the quiz homepage, that should actually go to questions.php. Okay, so let's make that change and come back again and refresh. So let's refresh and log back in, james@yahoo.com, password test, login, and let's test your knowledge, choose a subject, let's say English, right, proceed, right. So we're there. What's the plural of ox? And let's say, let's put in a wrong answer in this case and see what happens. What's the plural of is? It's okay, and submit. There we go. So that's it, and score 50%. English is the subject. So we can style this, change the CSS to style it and set this up in a very proper table. Okay, but before we do that, let's also take the current affairs, proceed, and there we go. So whose image is that in the photo below? That's Albert Einstein. Submit quiz, and there we go. See, so what we're going to do next is to style this table and then set up guards as well, so that if we are not an admin, we can't have options to view these add questions and delete questions options, because as you could see before, we couldn't actually click on them and go there without being an admin. So we'll set up the guards there and also work on the CSS as well. So we could just as well, within the folder for assets, create a CSS folder. So let's new folder, that's CSS, and within there let's create style.css, a new file. Okay, style.css, and we're going to write our CSS in here. Okay, so I could just as well copy from, because I've written this before, like I said, so just copy the styling I used and paste in a new project. Okay, so this is basically the styling to give the table a proper look, basically. So let's refresh this and see. what this looks like. Refresh. Okay, something's not right. Oh, the styling has not been pulled in. We need to include the styling in our header. Okay, so what it is the correct pathway was not, basically it wasn't correct, it wasn't right. So as you can see, this style.css is within assets and css then style. So assets, we need to remove src css and style.css, right? So that should work now. So if we refresh this, and there we go. So that looks much nicer than it was before. The other thing we could do as well, like I said, let's make it in such a way that if we are not logged in as admin, we don't have to see add questions and delete questions. So let's go back to header, and just where we've got the links, we can put them within an if condition. Okay, so just to save the time, I'll copy from where I've done this before, and then it's the add questions and delete questions. So I'll replace these within an if condition. So if the user role is less than 2, which means we are admin, because admin is 1. If we are admin, then display that link. So we also need to change that to quiz project, and same for the next one as well, quiz project, and save. Okay, hopefully there's nothing else we need to adjust here. I don't think there is. So let's reload our page again. So we can reload our page, and we still have that because we are logged in as admin. So let's log out and create another account. Let's say you at you.com, password test 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 test, first name you, last name you, and sign up. You see, so they are gone because we are not an admin. Okay, so we can only take the quiz and see our results. So at the moment, if you check the results, you can see the results for the previous user. And then let's take maybe plural of ogs in. What is plural of is submit quiz. All right, so here we are. That's the result for the quiz. So you can see the result is there. And one other thing we could do as well is to make, let's log out, and we can add a background image here just to make it look a bit nicer. So what we can do is we can create a folder within assets and call that within source. Let's put that in source. Okay, folder in here and call this images, and inside of this folder we will let's add an image that we can use as a background image. So go to the project folder that's located in there, right? Assets, source, and in images I already have a picture. I will paste in there a background image. Okay, you can choose whatever image you want. All right, and then we go to our login .php, that one, and background image. So yeah, I'll just copy that as well. Copy that one and come here. That's within the body, right? Okay, so style, oh no, we don't need to do that. I don't think we do. So it's within asset source images background. Okay, Ctrl S, and let's save and reload the page. Right, so let's sign in one more time as an admin. James is an admin, and test login. And right, so, and one more thing I noticed, so on the logout, okay, login.php file, which is this, we don't actually want to have these available, okay, because you're not logged in, so that needs to go off, and we'll just leave the home, probably just that. Okay, so I think refresh again, yeah, goes away. So let's log in as James, and test. Yeah, so we're logged in as James, who's an admin, and you can see the add questions and delete questions are back now. So let's try delete questions. So this is multi-select. We've got questions within English and current affairs as well. So we've selected both because this is multi-select. You can select more than one option and proceed. The selected subjects have been deleted successfully. So let's try to take the quiz again. And if we click, you see nothing because we've deleted the subject. If we go to the database and look in the questions, you see it's empty because they've all been deleted. All right, and yeah, so that's pretty much what we can do. All right, and congratulations for getting to the end of the course. And if you have any questions, feel free to write your questions within the comments sections, or maybe send an email or so, and I'll try as much as I can to respond to all the questions that you could have. All right, and yeah, that's it. Hopefully there's nothing else, nothing major. You can obviously fine tune the app to what you want it to be, the look and feel you need. You can make your changes and adapt it as well. All right, and that will be it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.